the Audi Sport R8 LMS Cup. Sean Henshawood, it is hot today. It's not too hot, but it's a lot nicer than yesterday, isn't it?
I'm pretty sure the weather prediction from Wei-Ron-Tan will be a much nicer and much easier challenge for him today, but Shanghai International Circuit always presents a great challenge, and we saw that again yesterday, and we saw it in qualifying.
Well, we did. Now, talking about hot, the person who was hot on track all of yesterday and this morning, Anthony Liao, scorching around this track more than a second. That was actually, people were catching him up towards the end, but he was still more than a second in pole position.
He is the expert here. We did joke earlier, it's the Anthony Liu International Circuit at Shanghai, because he is so good here. We've seen it for years. He's come out of semi-retirement to jump back into the Cup and done a very, very good job. He showed that in qualifying. He only needed really one flying lap to set a time. But what was interesting was that Alex Au closed that gap just very, very slightly.
Well, let's take a look and see how Anthony Liao got that win yesterday with highlights of round 5. Anthony joked in a press conference after that race win yesterday. He said it was a little bit rusty. Didn't see much evidence of that either yesterday or today, did we?
Well, nobody saw any evidence of that. In fact, Alex Au, when I asked him what can you do to close the gap, he said, well, I think what it's done is it's made me look bad because he was just so fast. But he does know this circuit quite well. Again, even Vincent Florendo talking to him yesterday, he said the thing that got me over Shanghai, shorter circuit, stop corners, all that sort of thing, not such a physical load on the body. And he said yesterday, I felt it. We saw him drop from fighting in the top 3 to fighting at the rear of the top 10. So that was a big impact on some of those drivers.
Now, if there is an Achilles heel for Anthony Liao, it's perhaps at the start, because up until the first 9 turns, he was down from pole position down to 4th into that first turn, and then, of course, went back.
Talking rusty, he said, I was watching Alex Au's car and thought, when do we go? And then realised, well, he'd already gone. So he said that was one of the things that it took me a little while to get my brain to click back into race mode because he'd been out of the seat for so long. Whereas Alex, well, he'd come from a race win in China last week in an Audi GT4, so he was pretty fresh. But he's got a lot of work to do to catch Anthony Liu.
Now, what can he do coming in this run down to turn 1? He has 20 kilos in the car, but Anthony, of course, a little bit more with 30 from that race win yesterday. Can Alex get his nose in front? And crucially, can he stay there?
We'll see. Today is a different day, and we'll see how that goes. Anyway, I'm going to let you go because these drivers are starting to get right in the zone. And when we talk about zone, it's zone red. Well, they are well and truly in zone red. And don't forget, after the program, in a couple of hours, keep tabs on the social media platforms because we will go inside zone red and get the background on exactly what's gone on this weekend. We might try and actually have a quick chat to Alex Au. He was the standout at Shanghai last time round. I'm going to see if I can get a quick word. He's trying to dial himself in, but Alex Au, it was a big day yesterday. A bit of work to do to catch up to Anthony Liu, but well, you found some time in qualifying. You'd have to be fairly happy with that.
Well, I'm happy that I made some improvement, but obviously the improvement is still not enough to really match the pace of Anthony. I think more concerning today is that the 4 cars behind have gone faster than yesterday, so I think they have fresh ambitions. So I have to watch out for that, and hopefully I can just pull a small gap to make myself safe.
Well, we wish you luck. Certainly it's going to be an interesting race, and you've come in hot. You had a win last weekend. You need to try and keep that one going, and you're in this championship hunt again, so good luck. So Alex Au in the CTVS Races entry. We might need to just nip over and talk to Anthony Liu, or maybe not talk to him, at least wish him the best of luck after his run yesterday. And he certainly has been doing a very, very good job. Just getting himself all dialed in and set up. I might just shake him by the hand again. We'll see how it works this time. Good luck, mate. So Anthony Liu is going to go for 2 wins. And the interesting thing this year so far, 5 different winners from the 5 rounds of the championship to date. And we'll see how Anthony Liu goes. He may well break that mould and become the first 2-time winner of the season. We'll go a little bit further down the grid to the second row. Angelo Negro. Well, actually, we've got Martin Cool, the director of Audi Sport Customer Racing. Got to love catching up with this bloke. Always smiling. Nice weather. A little bit different to yesterday. This guy is really, it's good to see him back, but he really has put everybody on notice, hasn't he?
Anthony is one of the best amateurs in the whole Asian region, and this is his home track, so it's expected he's fast, of course. But I guess the others, you could see, some of the drivers haven't raced here before, so it's been a while. But this morning's qualifying results over yesterday were already a lot closer, so I think the drivers are learning, and we have a good race today.
We've also got that great battle for the seat for the Suzuka 10-hour next year, and that's pretty close between Burrit and Yasser Shahin. That's a great thing. It's driving these drivers to actually keep going pretty hard.
Yeah, and I think a lot about it. Well, let's see what's happening. Yasser definitely struggled a little bit. Burrit also had to find his form, but this morning, again, like I said, both of them were there. So it's going to be a tough one.
Well, it's been the good thing this year. He might be the first 2-time winner. We've had 5 rounds, 5 different winners. That's been one of the highlight of the Cup from the last 2 seasons. It's really been pretty unpredictable. Everyone's in with a chance.
It's showing the competitiveness, and to be honest, we always have 7 to 8 cars who actually on the grid and can win the race. So that's how we love it.
I'll let you go. You've got a few drivers to congratulate and wish luck. Good luck for a good race. And of course, Martin Cool right across this. We take a quick look at Angelo Negro, who drove brilliantly at one stage during qualifying. He held on to position number 2. He's dropped back to position 3, but not too far behind Alex Au. He has been really pressing on very, very nicely. Good experience in this level of car. Hasn't done a lot of miles in an Audi R8, and he showed to be very, very strong in that opening race. Andrew Haryanto, he's got the mojo back, he's got the eyes on, and we're looking forward to seeing what the Indonesian driver can do. I'm not going to interrupt him. I am going to grab the guy who's just pulled inside the door there. That is Wayron Tan. Of course, one of the mentors of the Cup, Martin Rump, his co-driver in Blancpain GT World Challenge, alongside so too Frankie Chung. The 3 of them very heavily involved in the mentoring of these drivers, and it is showing every time they go out the gate. They're getting faster and faster. Wayron, a winner in WEC and LMP2, just giving a little bit more advice to Andrew at the last minute. We'll see how this goes. Martin Rump's just stepped in. Always good to talk to this young man. I was going to ask your illustrious teammate about what the weather would be like. I think it might be a bit shaky, but do you think maybe slicks will be okay?
Yeah, for sure it's going to be okay. I mean, it's fast and very hot. And in the car, probably like a sauna. Very nice place to be. Double layers of fireproof clothing, of course.
Underwear.
The helmet, underwear, everything, fireproof. So yeah, I mean, it takes a proper commitment to actually drive the car with this heat. I mean, come on.
Well, that's the other thing too. I mean, it's the concentration levels, isn't it? I mean, you've got to remember that in those conditions, cabin temperatures can get to 60 degrees. So much going on. They're racing hard at over 200 kilometres per hour, making split-second decisions. All of this is happening in probably the least pleasant physical conditions.
Absolutely. I mean, it's absolutely something that I've been learning all of my life. You know, essentially when I started racing, that's what I started to improve then, and it's a lifelong development. And the same for them, just every time they're out, trying to do the best they can, and it's such a challenge to put the physical and the mental together, and any split-second decision that they make wrong can cost them a lot, or they can win a lot. So it's a lot at stake, and man, it's exciting.
It is exciting.
Talk to him now, yeah?
Yeah, you better go and do your job. I'll keep doing mine. We go a little bit further down the grid. Ingo Matter just walking past the team boss for Absolute Racing. Yasser Shahin, we haven't seen too much of this weekend. He's been a little busy, a little elusive. He's focused, eyes forward. He is the championship points leader by 30 points after the race yesterday. He's doing a great job, but he is also focused on that seat for Suzuka. We'll talk a little bit more about that during the race program, but he is right in the mix. And he will be one to keep an eye on this race. Across alongside him, Burrit Birrenbach doesn't quite have the pace that he's looking for this weekend. He's been fairly, a little quiet probably this weekend compared to normal. He's got a lot on his mind. He's trying to focus hard on getting back into this championship. Of course, he won the most recent, well, the first round at Zhuhai. Race 1, or race 2 rather, the most recent round, of course, round 4 of the championship. A lot going on the grid, always a great place to be for the crews. Jingzhou is a little bit further back. Sun Jingzhou is, well, he was a 2-time winner last year. He's been right in the mix over the last couple of seasons of the Cup. He had an off in qualifying this morning, only a fairly slight knock with the tyres down at turn 13, and he will certainly be looking to move forward in this field. Frankie Chung, another of the mentors, just talking to him. Stick the camera in the door there. Tony Bates, the Australian driver, not feeling 100%. And for him, he'll be looking to try and rebuild on this. And this is his first time at Shanghai International Circuit. He's got a little bit of work ahead of him, but he is a racer. He loves this stuff, and he will be pushing very, very hard on the grid. We go back to Vincent Florendo on the 5th row, and he is really good to, well, it's good to have him back in the championship, but he's really pushing very, very hard. Has a comment about the circuit. This is a lot more physical for him to drive as we look at Market Chun starting the number 77 Zun Motorsport crew entry from the 5th row, immediately ahead of his teammate Lin Yiming. And then we go back to Sheng Yin in the number 6 entry, the GT4 for FEA, and that's a great story emerging too in China with the ongoing development of motorsport in the region. He has been a good addition to the field and threatening to jump to the top of the GT4 standings. Well, that's your grid. We're going to go up to Mark Dreyer up in commentary. I'll join him shortly as this race gets ready to get underway. This is round 6 of the Audi Sport R8 LMS Cup, and this is the start of the second half of the 2019 season.
Thanks very much, Sean. Well, it is pretty hot down there, and the drivers are just getting into their final mental headspace to prepare for the opening stages. 29 degrees, but you can see, look at that track temperature, 43 degrees down there, and inside these cars it can get much, much hotter. Sean mentioned about Tony Bates, who starts from position number 8, feeling a little bit better today than he was yesterday, but had his own internal temperature issues, had a fever when he came here first. As we take a look at this Shanghai International Circuit, 16 turns in all. And that opening section, 1, 2 and 3, all the drivers will tell you that it's absolutely imperative to get it right, that long right-hander, and then suddenly the sharp left into turn 3. Another tricky area here. You've got to be getting speed through 12 into 13, that long, long straight. Plenty of opportunities to overtake into turn 14. We've seen that time and again. And then round completion. Turn 1, another area that we see a lot of overtaking here. And it's a healthy crowd. They've come out on this Sunday afternoon. And you can't see it from that shot, but some of the seats that are directly in the sun have been vacated because it is pretty warm out here. Not quite as hot as it was around midday, but still plenty warm enough. And inside those cars, even for the sprint races, the temperatures will be rising and the concentration really starts to go, and the physical toll that it takes starts to affect the mental side. That's something to think about during the closing laps here. So 1 formation lap as we just tick over 3 o'clock local time, and then a rolling start, and that is the swerving silver car of Anthony Liu behind the Audi safety car, just trying to warm up those tyres as much as possible. And if you're just joining us, Anthony Liu has had a perfect weekend. Pole position yesterday, fastest lap and a race win. Pole position again today. And if there was one blip, it was his start of the race yesterday, where he was swamped on the start somehow and was in position number 4 going into turn 1. But he'd already got back into the lead by turn 9 and didn't look back. It was a pretty comfortable win in the end. So just recapping the grid, Anthony Liao and Alex Au on the front row, then Angelo Negro alongside Andrew Haryanto, Burrit Birunbakdi, Yasser Shahin on the third row, Sun Jing Zhu and Tony Bates, then Markichan, Vincent Florendo, Lin Yiming and Sheng Yanwen, and then Jiang Dongqi will start in position number 13 from rear of field. He didn't race yesterday, but he is lined up for today's race. The 6th of 10 races here in the Cup. And when we get this one in the books, it's off to Suzuka in Japan. Martin Kuhl there, enjoying proceedings. So one safety car lap as they form up here. And we are moments away from race time here in Shanghai. Sean Henshelwood just getting settled. I'll let you have a chance to catch your breath, cool down briefly, have a quick drink. And Angelo Negro in the red car there, just a fraction away from the front row of the grid. He's improved immensely throughout this weekend, and he will be putting pressure on Alex Au right from the off. Alex Au, of course, will be trying to nip in to the lead, as he did yesterday briefly. And Anthony Liao will be looking to continue his perfect weekend, Sean Henshelwood.
Of course he will, and it'll be the first two-time winner, as we alluded to down on the grid. He is right in the mix now. And what's interesting too is we've had 5 different winners. No one's really made a huge mark yet on the championship. Yasser Shahin, yes, he has a 30-point lead, but that defies a little just how competitive so many of the other drivers have been. They just haven't been able to string a large number of results together. And by his own admission, I think Yasser would also say that it hasn't been a perfect season so far. Yes, he's coming back to some of these circuits for the second time. Obviously, Zhuhai was another new one for him, but he could have been further ahead. He could have set a greater advantage, but that hasn't been the case. It has been, everybody has had a bit of a slip-up somewhere along the line, and it still is pretty much anyone's game as we get into the second half of the season.
Well, he's got 3 of his big rivals in the championship standings. Tony Bates just behind him, but then Burrit and Alex ahead of him. So if he can get away with that 30-point lead that he currently has, he'll be doing pretty well as we go into Japan. But Sean, they're just forming up for the start of this race.
It's going to be very, very interesting. And, well, I don't think Anthony Liu is going to get left wanting on the start line this time. I think he's going to be right back on the money. When he was talking about being rusty, I think it was more so about just being race ready a little bit with some of the things from the past, not about his outright pace. There was no question about that. So inside of the circuit closest to pit lane is Anthony Liu, left of screen. Right of screen, the CTVS Races entry of Alex Au. Looking to put a championship together. Lights out, we're underway. Protecting from Angelo Negro, who's started very, very strongly. But Alex Au again's gone around the outside. He did this yesterday, but, oh, no, he hasn't. That has allowed Anthony Liu to come through. And 3 wide further back, Andrew Haryanto on the outside of Burrit Birunbakdi and Yasser Shahin, tiptoeing around the opening turn.
Well, Yasser Shahin was looking to move up into 3rd or even 4th, but slipped back to 2nd. There he goes to move up into 5th position there.
And that looks like Andrew Haryanto has dropped back to like 7th in the field off the start. Now that's a little bit further back than we would have expected him to be.
Well, Angelo Negro up into 2nd, nipped past Alex Au. What can he do now?
Oh, too far down the inside. It looked like somebody was going to go way too deep, and for some reason caught out wide. They may have been 3 wide. We might get a replay on that a little bit later, but certainly Burrit Birunbakdi caught out 2 wide on the slipperier part of the circuit, and he just hasn't been able to pull it up going down to turn 6, and that's opened the door for certainly Batesy and a couple of the others behind him. So Andrew Haryanto may take advantage from that one, but still not a really clear opening lap. That is Angelo Negro in the red car. Alex Au in the CTVS Races grey and yellow fluoro trim, and behind them is Tony Bates. Then it is back to Andrew Harrianto, and caught up in all of that too is Yasser Shahin. He's not having the perfect weekend, despite the fact he has extended his points lead after race 1.
Well, Sean, a big battle here for second, third and fourth, but Anthony Liao has already pulled out a massive gap in this first lap. I guess putting...
Oh, no, that is Yasser Shahin right of screen, Burt Birnbachty left of screen. See, this is the sort of thing that opens the championship up. If there's a slip up here and 25 valuable championship points gone for Yasser Shahin, suddenly the landscape looks very, very different after we leave Shanghai International Circuit tonight. So both have got going. That's good news. But how far back as Alex Au goes? Well, I was going to say he's coming down the inside of Angelo Negro. No, he hasn't. He's under fire from Tony Bates. And Andrew Harrianto closing in all the time, just circling.
Well, very good start from Tony Bates. Started in an 8th position. Certainly recovered as we take a look at this replay here.
Yeah, that's... yeah, down at turn 11. He's gone in too deep, and unfortunately for Yasser, didn't realise how deep and wide Burt Birnbachty had gone, and the two of them have made contact, so that's not going to work well for either of them. They're right back behind the GT4 cars now.
Is that something the stewards are going to be looking at, Sean?
I would not like to predict. I can neither confirm nor deny, but quite possibly any contact they will look at. They have onboard vision, judicial cameras, corner marshals. They have other cameras around the circuit. They can review all those things. So whether they make a review now and force a drive-through penalty, perhaps, or decide that there's some other penalty that will be added to perhaps Burt Birnbachty's overall race time, they'll make that determination, obviously. Hopefully we will find out about that, but they might also view it as a racing incident. These things happen. Visually, we talk about it all the time. The way the drivers sit low and central in the car, further back close to what we call the B pillar, vision can also always be very tight, and all these things are happening very, very quickly. So it's not always easy to judge based on what we see from outside the car.
Well, Sean, it's very tight between second through fifth in the championship standings, but the big winner here is Tony Bates, who currently sits in second, and he has moved up 4 places, with Yasser Shahin now down right at the bottom of the field in third. Here he is in the pits.
Championship points leader. This is not good. He wants to get back out there and keep going. Steering, by the look of what he's gesticulating to, isn't quite right. So he'll be very frustrated with this. He'll be keen to get back out there. They've got to do what they can. They're going to push the car back out. He needs to finish. He needs to get championship points. Of course, the top 10 will gain points. He'll be looking to add to his tally. It is 30 points. It's more than a race clear of Tony Bates. But if Tony Bates can improve overall his time, he will move forward, well forward in this championship. It'll be very little as we go to Suzuka in a bit over a month.
Currently in 4th position, which would get him 12 points. If he can move up one more, that would cut the lead in half. Here he is, number 24. Feeling much better than he was earlier in the week when he landed and was in all sorts of bother.
I'm not sure about that. Look, he's right under his rear wing. The man who he had battled before, a man who, funnily enough, was part of his motivation to come to Asia. He said, Andrew has such a good time. It is such a great series. I want to be a part of that. So he looked at Andrew as being one of the kind of drivers he would be battling toe-to-toe with, and, well, here he is, the reigning champion, the Indonesian driver, who told me this morning he doesn't carry the number 1 because of superstition. Number 1 means that I should be... as Angelo Negro's just gone in too deep into turn 1, and Alex Au has just been able to nip back through into position number 2. Now, up the front of the field, 2:08.78 for Anthony Liu, currently just under 5 seconds clear of the field. We saw this yesterday, Mark. It's he's gone, so it's a battle over second place, but importantly, this is also about championship.
Well, it is. I mean, it's absolutely different class Anthony Liu has been all weekend long. More than a second quicker than the entire field, both yesterday in qualifying and this morning's session as well. And as I said, 2.5 seconds a lap he's been eating into this field. It is a very, very impressive performance. You can see him just in the distance there. However, further back, battles all over this field with Angelo and Alex. We look at a replay of the start here. So Anthony Liu in that grey in the middle, not making the mistake that he did yesterday. Alex are trying to get around the outside, but not today. And then Yasser Shahin in the yellow and black there was trying to move up, but then getting past on the outside as well. And this is where they were 3-4 wide. Plenty of action in this race already. And Angelo Negro managed to go up into second position. And he is now down in third despite what you're seeing on your screen. Alex Au has passed him 4 seconds.
Here's this move for Burt Birnbachty down at turn 6, and Yasser Shahin was in that, whether it was a braking duel or whether there might have been a third car in all of that too. And we go on to the replay, which is, That was for position. No, not quite. That was Angelo Negro battling with Tony Bates, and at that stage I think it got Buraburambakti. But certainly it looks like Tony Bates has managed to break away from Andrew Harrianto. What can he do about Angelo Negro? Because certainly this is important for him in championship points. He'll be truly aware of that. Now, interestingly too, I'm using the word interestingly a fair bit right at the minute, but Alex Au's done a 2:09.62, so he's got to within 9/10 of the outright pace of Anthony Liu. The gap out to 5.8 seconds, but almost 2 seconds now between Alex Au and Angelo Negro. And interestingly too, for the fourth time in a paragraph, Alex Au and Angelo have raced against each other before, so has Anthony Liu in other one-make championships. So Angelo's done a lot of miles in the region, based here in Shanghai. He's done a lot of racing and was really enjoyed because it was his debut in the Cup yesterday, despite the fact he's raced other marks. It's the first time he'd run in the Audi, and he really loved it and showed to be very impressive during qualifying, where at one stage he was second fastest.
Well, we've seen a huge improvement from him over the weekend. As you said, he's been based here for 15 years, so he certainly knows this circuit very well and has taken to this car like a duck to water. But currently coming under a little bit of fire from Tony Bates, who, remember, started down in 8th position, but currently is going to be making up 12 points on Yasser Shahin, who, as far as we know, is still in the pits. And even if he was to get back out, he'd need to get up into 10th position just to score a solitary point. So it's not looking good for Yasser at the moment.
So Anthony Liu, Alex Au, Angelo Negro, Tony Bates, Andrew Harrianto, Sungjin Zhu back in position number 6. He's a long way back. He's 9 seconds back or thereabouts from the tail of Andrew Harrianto. Market Chun in position number 7. Vincent Florendo, position 8. Lin Yiming in position 9. And Buraburambakti rounds out the 10 after that contact early. Now, his lap times, 2:11 last time round. Lin Yiming immediately ahead of him, 2:15. This is their best lap, sorry. It wasn't last time round. So he's 4 seconds a lap faster or thereabouts, so that should change. Vincent Florendo's best at 2:13.5, 2:12.2 for Market Chun and 2:11.8 for Jingzhou.
Now, Sean, with Yasser currently suffering at the back of the field, how does this play into the road to Suzuka? Because, of course, we've got the 4 races from Zhuhai and here in Shanghai for a seat. Yasser was in the...
so glad you asked.
What?
Of course, you're exactly right. The two rounds in China, Shanghai and Zhuhai, the total points amassed by each team will settle the first driver into the 3 seats for the Suzuka 10 Hour for an Audi Sport R8 LMS Cup entry next year for 2020. The top GT3 point scorer, I should point out. Coming into this race, Yasser Shahin led on 47 points. Interestingly, Buraburambakti, 45 points. So, unfortunately, as a result of that contact, Burrit has effectively eliminated Yasser from that position. But in championship points at the moment, I think, looking at it, Burrit will get 2 points. They're equal. So that would be an interesting way to finish this off. Now, Vincent Florendo is in 3rd position on 31 points. He is currently, well, he's a little bit further back. He's in position 8. He won't take a big handful of points. Anthony Liu, though, on 27, amasses another 25. Suddenly
points.
Becomes the first entry into the Suzuka 10 Hour next year.
2 out of the 4 races, and he could, at the moment, I think he is on course for that seat, isn't he?
Oh, look at this. This is really starting to heat up, this battle between Tony Bates and Andrew Harrianto. So Harrianto is pushing on quite hard. Again, Tony Bates isn't feeling 100%. He's got a bad head cold. He's much, much better today than he was certainly when I saw him on Thursday. He looked very, very unwell. Suffered a lot during practice. Migraine headaches, all those sorts of things. Was very, very unwell. He's been able to recover. Of course, losing those extra valuable miles by being unwell and not fit enough to be in the car on Friday, really. He did turn laps, but he's not been here before. Andrew Harrianto's been to Shanghai a number of times. So for Tony Bates, you can see how big that margin is between first and second. But Tony Bates is really suffering as a result of that. So these are effectively his first real miles. There is Buraburambakti working his way through the field, just taken Lin Yiming 4 positions. So that moves him up to position 9.
Well, Anthony Liu is not holding back at the front of the field. He just set a 2:08.2, the best lap so far. That compares with a 2:05 that he did in qualifying this morning. So he's still got some more pace to give, but already, well, 8.7 seconds ahead of this field after just 5 laps.
There is Vincent Florendo, 2-time podium finisher on his return to the Cup. He is a former Cup competitor, hasn't been with us through the start of the season, wanted to be in Adelaide, but business commitments kept him out of the seat. He's back in the Cup. He's doing quite well. He did very well at Shanghai. It was very impressive. I asked him yesterday, what's the difference between Shanghai and Shanghai International Circuit? Well, effectively, he explained it's an F1 circuit. How about this? As Haryanto again looks up the inside of Tony Bates. Bates is driving quite wide, but he's driving quite fair. So too Andrew Haryanto. Neither of them need to take each other out. That's not the way this works, but they are racing hard. Again, Andrew Haryanto can carry his past experience to actually move him forward. Car's skating around a little bit. He's being a bit aggressive on the tyres. That may cost him just a little bit too. Certainly 2 sets of the Control Pirelli tyres from the opening leg of qualifying through to the end of the second race. How they amass the wear on those, that's entirely up to them. Some people use a fresh set for both legs of qualifying. Oh, is he? Well, no, he hasn't. He's gone out too wide. Oh, that was a little tight. Goodness me. I don't think that was really the line that Andrew Haryanto was looking for, but he'd got onto the throttle pretty hard and that had pushed him forward. Now, the other thing they're doing is they're dropping back a little bit from Angelo.
Yep.
That's allowing him to get away, and they don't really want to be doing that. So maybe Andrew Haryanto will regroup, but also he could be thinking, well, Angelo's getting away. This is valuable championship points for me. If I can pull 15 out of this one, Anthony's not really in it at the moment. Alex, I'm going to be battling in this championship quite soon. We really need to do something about this and gain more championship points to run in the overall standings. Alex has really leapt away.
Well, he has. He's now about 4 seconds ahead of Angelo. This is one of the back markers, Jiang Dongqi, who is currently in position number 12, just ahead of Yasser, of course, who's well, he's back out, so that's good news that Yasser Shahin is back and lapping.
Yeah, okay. Well, see, that Alex Au's been hung out to dry well and truly. That was not intentional.
Not for the first time this weekend.
That's a rookie driver making his debut in the Cup, just coming to grips with the GT4 Audi. He has done some GT racing and some GT4 racing as well in the past in China, so he's just getting that all together. He probably did not expect, whilst he's running around there on his own, to suddenly see the race leader in his rear mirror. So we saw that a little bit yesterday during the press conference. We're talking to Xingyan Wen, and he said he really... Oh, here we go again. This Tony Bates just fired down the inside. He couldn't afford to take a leisurely approach because he knew that Andrew Haryanto would absolutely pounce on that. But Xingyan Wen caught out Alex Au. The same sort of thing, forced him onto the grass, and he apologised afterwards. He said, I had absolutely no idea Alex was there. Once I knew that there was something going on, I tried to get out of the way, but by that stage I ended up forcing Alex onto the grass.
Well, the speed difference is absolutely massive. Jiang Dongqi's best time is a 2:34, and these guys are going around 2:10, 2:11, depending on which racer it is. So much, much quicker, of course, in the GT3 than those two GT4s towards the rear of the field. But perhaps they could afford to use the reviews a little bit more.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, any real chance that Alex Au had that he may have had a snowflake's chance in hell of catching Anthony Liu has gone. He was within 8 seconds of him. He's now 11.7 seconds. So he lost almost 4 seconds in that last lap alone. And he said yesterday a similar thing happened. He said, I was within sight of Anthony. He wasn't light years ahead. I could see him down the road. Yes, he was quicker, but I was using that as a bit of a gauge as to where maybe I could go quicker. But after I got caught up with the number 6 GT4 entry, I'd lost sight of him, and that was that. So, okay, we surmised maybe he backed off his pace a little bit, didn't need to overwear the tyres. He was comfortably second, and that's just what he confirmed. So, in this instance, though, he has lost that additional time. But certainly, Angelo Negro, how impressive is he?
Doing very, very well. Clear in third position. Now, Alex Au is coming up to the back of Yasser Shahin, who is a couple of laps down. Be interesting to see how quickly Yasser is lapping at the moment, see if there's continued damage to the car or whether Alex reels him in and goes past. So this is Yasser on screen behind Anthony Liu, but of course, as I said, 2 laps down from Alex here in the grey car in second and Angelo Negro in third in the red car at the top of the screen.
So again, a quick run through at about the halfway point in this race. Anthony Liu leads by 13 seconds over Alex Au, Angelo Negro, Tony Bates, Andrew Haryanto. That's your top 5. Sun Jingzhu, well, he's 6.5 seconds back from Andrew Haryanto. So he's actually closed in that distance quite dramatically. So Jingzhu's really getting a motor on. So too Market Chun. He's 12 seconds back from Jingzhu. He's in position 7. Vincent Florendo, position 8. Position 9 for Biran Bhakti. Can't quite get an update yet until the timing monitor refreshes as to how far back he is, and Lin Yiming round out the top 10. And the battle for GT4, well, Sheng Wen really is in the box seat. This could put him comfortably into the championship points lead.
Well, Sean, I think something may have happened with Burritt, because we're seeing that Lin Yiming, has gone back past him into 9th, and Burritt now 14 seconds, so must have had something happen on that last lap.
I do wonder whether or not there may have been a drive-through penalty or something like that, although we would have heard him get onto the limiter just below us here in the commentary position. So I didn't hear that, so maybe there was a drama somewhere around the circuit. So let's hope not. So it looks like Yasser's just turned out his best lap, potentially, and that was a 2:14.3. So that would tend to suggest that there's not too much damage on that front. That came on lap 5. So Jingzhu's pace, well, he's just set his fastest on lap 6 is a 2:10.5, and Vincent Florendo has just set his fastest with a 2:13.3. The overall pace, Anthony Liu, he's still leading at the front of the field very comfortably, 2:08.2.
Well, Alex Au is going to be catching up, I think, to Yasser Shahin. Yasser, as you said, with his fastest lap, but Alex still going significantly quicker, so we'll see that in a few moments' time.
Here's a challenge for you.
Yeah.
Get the pen out, sharpen the pencil.
Go.
Give a crack at the championship points.
How long have I got?
As a result of this, no calculator, you're using grey matter. That could be a real problem.
Okay.
But certainly this is going to make things interesting. We've spoken about it on the grid. We spoke about it with Martin Kuhl, the director of Audi Sport Customer Racing Asia, that this championship has been fantastic this year, and there is no real clear favourite. And traditionally, the drivers will tell you too, you come to an event, and for the most part, there is about 7 or 8 drivers all in with a chance of being on the podium or even winning the race. That's what we want to see. This is what makes it more exciting. 5 different winners up to the 5 races so far. Okay, Anthony Liu might be the first time double winner for this year, and he'll go back-to-back at his home circuit. Not the first time he's done that, I might point out. Sheng Wen on screen in the number 6 entry for FEA. We spoke about this in race 1, didn't get a chance to finish off the discussion. FEA is a developmental team for rising young GT stars in China. This is a great program. And to see Sheng Wen finish this weekend, potentially, it'll be back-to-back for Chinese drivers, one for GT3, the man on screen, Anthony Liu, the other one, Sheng Wen, to take back-to-back GT4 wins at the home of the Chinese Formula 1 Grand Prix. That's impressive. Go, Mark Dreyer.
Sean, I have some extremely, and I will repeat that word, extremely provisional scores for the championship as things stand. So Yasser Shahin is currently not on course to get any points. Unless there's dramatic changes, he will stay with 80 points. In second, Alex Au with 66. Then we have Tony Bates on 62. And fourth, with 2 race wins and 2 pole positions, Anthony Liu with 52, just ahead of Burritt Bakhti, who is currently on course to get a solitary point here, which will take him up to 50. So the lead will be cut to 14 points at the top of the championship.
Well, news just through from down in pit lane. It was a drive-through penalty for Burritt Bakhti, and you would assess that that was as a result of that drama earlier in the race. So contact with Yasser Shahin. Cool comfort for Yasser, unfortunately, because he's not going to gain any more points, and that's opened the championship up absolutely. Now here he is. We're talking about how big the speed differential was between Alex Au and Yasser Shahin. Well, there it is on screen as the number 2 car in the field. Well, as it turns out, the number 178 entry in the field, the CTVS Racers car of Alex Au, puts another lap on Yasser Shahin. He hasn't quite done it yet, but you would expect it is inevitable.
And at this point, Yasser's just getting some experience under his belt. He must be fuming, though.
I mean, what can Yasser do? He's, I think he's a lap down.
Yeah, he's 2 laps down.
He will get the 88 GT4 entry. I don't think he's going to get Sheng Wen.
And that's, even if he does, that's still out of the points into 11th position.
And even after that contact, unfortunately, Burritt is still going to be ahead of him. So it's kind of fallen into Burritt's lap a little bit. But the interesting thing will be, we need to work on the next level of mathematics as to exactly who's going to win this seat for Suzuka, because at the moment I would expect Anthony Liu's on target. And that's staggering considering he wasn't at Zhuhai. And for the championship now, that really opens things up because he's leapt to, what, 52 points?
52 points, yeah. He's in the mix. He's within 28 points of the top of the leadership after just 2 races of the 6. So if he decides to join for Suzuka and perhaps Sepang as well, he could be in with a shout because he has shown that he is a cut above this field at the moment.
He certainly is, and he has good experience at all of those circuits. Well, that remains to be seen. We'd love to see some more of him because he's certainly a colourful addition to the pit lane. But the idea is that we have full fields of these guys, and this does become more of a challenge, but we've alluded to it all weekend. The championship is wide open.
Did he shake his hand before the race, Sean?
I think the result on screen just confirms that was the case.
For viewers unfamiliar with Sean's lucky charm, he shakes Anthony's hand, generally goes on to win. So we'll see. See if you can keep that streak alive.
See if I can keep that streak alive. It's about the only claim to fame at the moment. But anyway, with Andrew Liu now comfortably clear in this field. 2:08.27 his best lap, 2:09.62. That is still a 1.4 second advantage over Alex Au. Now, Alex was hoping to get it down under a second and a half. He got it down as close as just over a second in qualifying. But certainly that shows the pace that Anthony Liu has around this circuit.
And not just the best lap, Sean, but look at that, 17 seconds in 10 laps. Doesn't take a mathematical genius such as myself to tell you what the average gap is. So he is just continuing to stretch that lead. Now we have a little under 8 minutes on the clock, plus one additional lap. That's how these sprint races are worked out here. On screen there, the 777 of Lin Yiming, who is in 9th position.
One of the great prizes for the 2018 season, of course, was the opportunity for drivers to compete across the season to be in an entry from Audi Sport R8 LMS Cup in the 2019 Spa 24-hour race. The 4 drivers that are listed at this stage: Jeffrey Lee, the veteran of the Cup, has competed in more rounds of the Audi Sport R8 LMS Cup than any other driver. Andrew Haryanto, the 2018 champion. Yasser Shahin, who is the championship points leader this year. And Burhan Bakhti, who was the season high 4-time winner in season 2018. Now, Angelo Negro looks like he's being caught. Tony Bates has. Shang Yen-wen, unfortunately, again caught up a little bit in the mix. They may have got through without losing too much time there, but Tony Bates has got eyes forward. This is important. He's within a second and a half now of Angelo Negro. And what's interesting here is the conversation I had with Vincent Florendo. We were alluding to it a little bit earlier in the program. Zhuhai not as physically taxing for these drivers, and talking to Adley Fong a little bit earlier in the weekend, he said the one thing that this track will get you on is because it is a big, fast-flowing F1 Hermann Tilke designed circuit. A lot of mid to high speed corners, and that is physically taxing on the body. You're not stopping in a straight line. You're trying to carry as much momentum through a corner. It's G-loadings, you're fighting the wheel, all those things. And Vincent Florendo said, quite purely, Sean, the reason I'm not as fast as I was in Zhuhai in overall outright percentage speed is just it's so physically draining.
Well, Sean, the battle for 3rd, 4th and 5th, and well, the battle for 4th is Tony Bates being swamped by Andrew Haryanto for 4th position. And that definitely changes the look of the championship standings.
I think that might have been a missed gear, because there's no way in that short stretch from turn 15 to 16 you can drive from behind someone around.
Look at the gap
Tony
now.
Bates
He's
got a big problem, unfortunately, and that's not how he's feeling physically. He was right in the battle to take 3rd position away from Angelo Negro, and now he's just dropping right back through the field into the clutches of Sun Jing Zhu. So unless something comes good, that's not a good sign for Tony Bates, unfortunately.
Well, I'm going to have to get the calculator out again, because that will put everyone, if he does retire, we're not saying he will at the moment, but if he continues to go backwards as he's doing at the moment, and Burritt gets some extra points, maybe even Yasser Shahin can climb up into 10th spot.
I think Burritt's going to come forward after that drive-through penalty, and he was well back down the order. They lost a lot of ground to the leaders, but just depends on how much. Oh, yeah, drive out of the corner just doesn't seem to be there at the moment. You might be right. Tony Bates could be in all sorts of trouble. So this is good for Jingzhou. He's not had the happiest of runs so far this year. A driver who won 2 outright rounds of the Cup last year. He was on fire in the closing stages of the season, and he really did start this year as one of the likely favourites. The Chinese driver hasn't been a perfect start to the year, because missed the Zhuhai round, unfortunately. But he is certainly keen to be taking away more #1 trophies. There's Yasser Shahin. Still circulating, fortunately, and he needs to, because we just don't know what will happen with Tony Bates.
Well, Andrew Haryanto, if he can get past Yasser Shahin, he could then have a run at the podium positions with this red car of Angelo Negro in the 3rd and final podium spot. So Yasser Shahin after him is, of course, a couple of laps down. He won't be ceding ground willingly. So Andrew Haryanto, the 3rd of this line of cars, lines up Yasser Shahin to see if he can move up further through this field, and then see if he can reel in Angelo Negro. But he's certainly lapping well at the moment, Andrew.
Yeah, Yasser just trying to get out of the way there. He's still carrying good speed, but perhaps Andrew was wrongly positioned for that part of the circuit. Still racing. The blue flags will be flying because he is a lapped car. And Yasser's a racer. It won't be that he won't want to let Andrew pass, but he'll need Andrew to be at a pace where he can afford to let him pass without slowing his forward momentum. So he's left the door open there on the run into turn 1. And that may well have been just what Angelo Negro needed to ensure. Oh, he's got the tail out too. The slippery part of the circuit. That was another interesting observation from Adley Fong, who drove one of the cars on Thursday. He said there's so many different categories on different marks of tyre here this weekend. He said if you have enough racing from some of the other support categories, it both tears up the Pirelli rubber on track, puts down another brand of tyre, and it makes things quite slippery. So he said that's one thing that the drivers, because they're not full-time professionals, aren't so accustomed to. So the car gets a little bit taily and a little bit more uncomfortable to drive. So that has been something they've needed to come to grips with too. So if you see the car just starting to move around, that can have a lot to do with the quality of the track surface offline based on some of these other support classes. So another variable the drivers have to contend with.
Well,
but that's why the mentors are here.
That's right. Well, Sun Jing Zhu has gone past Tony Bates up into 5th position, as you mentioned a moment ago. And Bates not on the screen at the moment. Andrew Harrianto looking to close in on a podium position. He may just run out of time, run out of track here with 2 minutes on the clock plus 1 additional lap. He's going to have to catch Angelo and then get past him. That is Alex Au in 2nd position. But he is
light years behind.
Light years behind, yeah.
And a long way in front at the moment of Angelo Negro.
So 20 seconds between 1st and 2nd, and then another 10 seconds between this man, Alex Au, and Angelo in 3rd. But just a couple of seconds or less between 3rd and 4th. So that is something to keep your eyes on. And also the number 24 car of Tony Bates. Can he hold it in 6th, or will he fall further down this order? He's got problems. He's not going to want to retire at this stage, is he, Sean?
No, you'd want to keep going. We saw Yasser Shahin at Adelaide at the start of the season do a similar sort of thing. He was battling a technical issue which wouldn't allow him to upshift over the final couple of laps. That allowed the field to close in on him, but he crossed the line and crucially managed to hang on and make a podium finish. I'm just keeping an eye on the final corner to see whether or not Tony Bates comes through. And fingers are certainly crossed that he does, because this keeps him in the championship hunt. Yes, he does. He's coming through the final corner. The car really isn't carrying great pace. And, well, he's got... that's Market Sean will potentially close in and take him. So, too, Vincent Florendo, because they are very, very close. There they are on screen.
Yeah.
So that's there goes Tony Bates through bottom of screen. I think it's fait accompli, unfortunately, with respect to Market Sean and certainly Vincent Florendo. So Batesy will drop out a couple more points. So I'd get that pencil back out again, because I think Batesy may well cross the line in position 8 to just 1 position clear of Birrenbach. He's coming through the final corner now. So that's a good 20 plus seconds difference between Bates, I'd expect, and Birrenbach.
Well, this issue could cost him 8 points, which would be dramatic. He was going to be in 3rd in the championship standings, but he's going to drop, I think, behind. Well, it's going to be very tight.
Well, dramatic, but still, that mid-pack, I mean, just in those positions, probably positions 2 through 6 in the championship, so very close. Yini Ming coming around the final corner. He's travelling quite slowly too, so he's probably back a little bit further than we would have expected. As there is the race leader. He's coming to the line. Now, the clock has gone 30 minutes. We'd expect to see 1 more lap. And Anthony Liu will be the first 2-time winner. There it is. The last lap board is up. And this will be a popular victory at home at Shanghai International Circuit. I'd hate to guess how many wins he's had here at Shanghai. Very much a specialist. It was the joke. It's the Anthony Liu International Circuit in Shanghai. But it is just how good he is around this circuit. Even against some of the best GT drivers in the world, he can hold his own. And still very competitive in other circuits around the region, and we'd hope to see him in some of those now. Oh, still skating around the circuit. So I think Andrew Harrianto has done the best of his tyres. He's got Jingzhou still catching him, but only slowly. I don't think that position is likely to change as we go back on board with the 37 entry, which interestingly was the 59 entry that took victory in round 4 of the championship under Burin Bakhti at that stage. His primary car had moved on to the Blancpain GT World Challenge Asia in Buriram in Thailand, and we will see Burin and Kandasak Kasiri and also Martin Rump and Wei Rontan in that championship again very, very soon at Suzuka in Japan.
Well, this is the parade to victory for Anthony Liu on this final lap, but I can tell you Tony Bates has just slipped those 2 more places that we'd feared down into 8th position. That has championship ramifications. But Sean, call it to the end of the line here for Anthony Liu. An absolutely perfect weekend. 2 best laps, 2 pole positions, and now 2 race wins.
Well, a flawless run. He's catching Lin Yiming. He will get around him quite comfortably, I would expect, on the back straight. Somebody's gone past us here with a car that sounded like had the pit limiter on. So a little bit of drama. It may well have been Tony Bates, who has dropped position to Mark Chun and Vincent Florendo. But absolutely flawless to Anthony Liu. This is exactly what he wanted to see. We expected it, and all those of us that knew him and had seen him race before expected that he would carry good pace, perhaps not quite such good pace, especially coming out of semi-retirement. But what a result for Anthony Liu. First 2-time winner. This actually brings him into potential championship contention and may well have also given him that coveted seat in the Suzuka 10-hour entry next year. But he'll be just happy to take that trophy and be back in amongst his peers. What a return to form for Anthony Liu. We are still waiting to see second. There he is, Alex Au on screen. The CDVS Races entry consolidates his championship position. He needed this too after such a tough run at Zhuhai last time out. He top qualified both races. He's an expert around that Zhuhai circuit. Didn't start either race. Well, he started the first race, got to turn 4 and wound up on the fence, unfortunately. But second race he wasn't able to start. Lost a huge opportunity. He could well be the comfortable championship points leader. It's not. Great result for Angelo Negro to carry on the form he showed in the first race where he's 4th to finish with 3rd. A great spot for him on the podium. Jingzhou, a good job too. Well, actually, what's happened there? Andrew's dropped back behind Jingzhou. Tony Bates has stopped on track. It was an issue. So close to the finish, the clock had gone beyond 30 minutes and the Australian driver is stopped on track. He'll be devastated by that. That really does cost him valuable championship points. Markachun across the line. A man he battled a lot with despite his experience at Zhuhai. The returning Vincent Florendo crosses the line immediately behind them. So they will be positions number 6 and 7. Batesy was holding on to position 8. This is devastating for the popular Australian. Burin Bakhti, by virtue of this, will take points for position number 8 in this. Is that true? Was he a lap down? No, I think he will. He will end up being in position 8, so he gains a couple more points. The frustrated one there, of course, is Yasser Shaheen, who, as a result of that contact, and despite the drive-through penalty for Burin Bakhti, will not score any points despite coming into this round with a 30-point championship lead.
Well, it has dramatically changed things with Anthony Liu. Just 2 races here, but he's up into 4th in the championships already. Yasser Shaheen, of course, not adding to his 80 points. He's in first. Then Alex Au has 66, just 14 points back. And then I'm going to have to get the calculators out again because I thought it was going to be Tony Bates with 4. Unclear if he's going to be given points for scoring for 9th place or whether... You can just see.
Well, I'm pretty sure you've got to be you've got to cross the line.
Well, you don't need to see his face to
there's
know
the
what
body
he's
language,
feeling.
and unfortunately for him, he's suffered a tough day or a tough weekend with a nasty head cold and very unpleasant conditions in the car. It's not the way he wanted his weekend to play out. Not when at one stage he looked to be in the box seat to really close down this championship.
Performance of the day, Sean, for me, Angelo Negro on his debut in the Cup here, podium position. He's done really, really well.
I think that's pretty fair. There's a very dejected Tony Bates, unfortunately. But yes, no, Angelo Negro has done a fantastic job on his debut. And interestingly, you spoke to him earlier in the day. Car number 48 reflects the age he was when he started racing. He's been racing a number of years.
He has, yes. He's in fantastic shape. Now, he was on 2 wheels for a long time before switching to 4. That was because he kept crashing, he kept being hospital, and his kids, who were very sporty, but they're not racers, I think they do horse riding and fencing and volleyball, respectively. They were like, Dad, come on, stop crashing on the bike, you're worrying us. So he switched to 4. Of course, it's dangerous, but not quite as dangerous as the 2 wheels. And, well, I think they'll be pretty proud of him today.
What a great result. The customary commendation from Martin Kuhl. He be happy with that. And what a solid day, a solid weekend in the office for Anthony Liu. Good result too for Alex Au, deserving the former AM Cup champion. Now, what's happened there? Okay, well, Andrew Harrianto, yes, he did. He dropped back behind Jingzhou, so he had a drama on that last lap.
Yeah.
So that's a bit of a lost opportunity there. But still, I mean, these guys are all tight in the championship. So, too, now is Anthony Liu as a first two-time winner this year, the first driver to dominate a weekend. And we have seen that before in Shanghai. It does provide that opportunity for a driver who can really just push that little bit extra to not just take a win, but to go back-to-back, and he's been able to achieve that.
And it's also a bit of a reality check for some of the other drivers. You know, they've been pushing as hard as they can, then suddenly Anthony comes in and shaves a second plus off their time and think, right, well, there's a lot more possible from the car. Speaking of Anthony Liu, he's down with Sophie on the track. Let's hear from the race winner now.
这和刘旭获得了我们的杯赛在上海的第2场正赛的冠军 Anthony Congratulations 说到2年之后再次回到我们的杯赛今天50公斤负重看来根本就没有压力很轻松的一场比赛是吧
还行吧就挺滑的然后我想大家应该都差不多吧
那今天的比赛你跟我们总结一下尤其是从发车的时候开始
今天发车差点又掉位子了还好还比昨天好一点对
好非常感谢 Congratulations one more time Anthony to summarize this as a little bit slippery today but also a smooth race for him Congratulations one more time cross back to your guys 转回到我们的解说间
Well, Sean, I don't think he can claim that he was rusty today. We didn't believe it from him yesterday. We're certainly not going to believe it today.
We didn't lose it off the start. Alex Au got another great start. We'll see it in the replay shortly, but he was able to lead from the front and do what he did yesterday and pull away from the field. Looks like we might have Sophie back down there with the man we're just talking about, Alex Au.
Alex, talk about the start, especially 2 podium finish this weekend. But a little bit disappointed that you cannot overtake Anthony, right?
Well, I think given the qualified times, he's making a statement that challenge if you can. But I have a whole championship to worry about. So really, my mission this race is really to try and get P2, and I got it. So yeah, it's pretty good. So pretty happy about that.
Thank you so much. A lot of points collected in the pocket. Cross back to your guys.
Well, Alex now just 14 points back of Yasser. He did what he had to do with those 2 second positions because he, as he sort of admitted himself, wasn't really challenging for the win. Obviously, he got some luck through Yasser's misfortune. But we can hear from the 3rd podium position finisher today, Angelo Negro, who is down with Sophie.
Wow, Angela, what a battle for this race. And especially talk about your debut here in the Cup. How many score you can give yourself?
My God, I don't know. Whatever. Well, I did a good weekend, I think. Especially because I don't know this car. I never raced in Audi. So it was quite tough to let know the car in such a short time. But whatever, we made it. So I did improvement every section, every race, every qualifying. So I had a chance also to be probably second. I did a good start. But I made a mistake in the middle of the race. And I think I ruined my back tires. So temperature was really hot today. So it was really hard.
Oh, not bad for an old man, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Not bad for an old man. Not bad for an old man. They all could be my son. But whatever, I'm still there, so I'm really happy about it.
Thank you so much, Angela, and enjoy the podium finish. And cross back to your guys.
Well, we're laughing out here, Sean. And to be honest, he's a pretty lively character. I think he's a little bit shattered after that race, but a great performance for him. I think he'll pick up some energy later.
Does he get the prize for understatement of the weekend, or is that Anthony being rusty? One or the other. They can share the drive and the understatement of the weekend between them. But Anthony Liu, as you see there, takes victory number 2 for the weekend. Alex Au second. Angelo Negro up from 4th in race 1 to 3rd in race 2. Jingzhou, great recovery to be in position number 4. Andrew Harrianto, unfortunately a drama. We'll find out about that for the post-race show. Don't forget to join #ZoneRed. Market Sean, a great result to be in position number 6. Vincent Florendo, and then back to Birrenbachty. Shang Yan Wen taking the top honours for GT4, and that mark will make things very, very interesting.
Yes, it will. Well, we'll be back towards the end of August for Suzuka Japan.
That is always a very, very good event.
We'll see you then.
And there was the highlight off the line, left of screen. Anthony Liu, he wasn't rusty for the second start. He was away. And of course, that was Alex Au on the outside. Down the inside, the opportunist, Angelo Negro, tried to take the position away from Alex Au, really battled hard, got up the inside in the end. And that made it interesting for Alex Au. But Alex Au was very quickly back in a slight love kiss in the back from Tony Bates, just under brakes for turn 2. Yasser Shaheen too, diving down the inside of Burrit Bakhti. And I'm not sure whether we'll see it in this angle, but it came unstuck here. You can see there's Bates and both Burrit and Yasser having a bit of drama down there. So Burrit off track, not too much longer after that. Oh, a big dive down the inside from Burrit. You saw the hand go up, so that wouldn't have been in any way intentional. And then, unfortunately for Alex Au, he got wrong-footed again by GT4. It was number 6 of Shanghai yesterday. And this is where the drama started late in the race for Tony Bates. He hung on to position 4, was looking for position number 3. And unfortunately, the car lost power and he ended up stopping with half a lap to go on the final lap after a tough weekend on his debut at Shanghai International Circuit. And such dramas, though, for the man at the front of the field. And that was Anthony Liu. Here is Alex Au working his way through. He would cross the line in position 2 for the second time this weekend, consolidate his championship position, and without sounding like I'm suggesting Yasser doesn't deserve to be where he is, Alex Au in some way needs to take consolation for what happened to him in Shanghai. That was not in any way his fault. He scored no points despite the fact he came into the weekend as the pace setter. Pace setter here though, that was Anthony Liu, and what a solid result on his return to competition.
But all things considered, Alex Au has been a quicker driver than Yasser, so you would expect him to continue to close that gap at the top of the championship standings, just 14 points now. And Tony Bates, he started in 8th position, Sean. Immediately up to 4th, he had a tremendous start, but then, of course, was beginning to fall back down. And provisionally listed 9th place, even though he didn't cross the line. So we're still waiting to see if he gets a couple of points. But it's so close, around 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th in the championship standings, that every point matters.
Well, make sure you stay with us because we go inside Zone Red in, just a bit over 30 minutes' time, live on the social media platforms, and we will give you a rundown. We'll get a chance very shortly here to just skip down and talk to the drivers, find out exactly what happened to Tony Bates, what happened to Andrew Harrianto, and talk to Yasser Shaheen, hopefully catch Burrit Bakhti as well. We will update you on that in just over half an hour's time. So make sure you stick around for that, but keep up to date with the website and the platforms. Of course, we're going through to the podium, and we will hear hopefully a little bit more from the drivers afterwards. They will go through to their media conference. We might find who's still hanging around in about half an hour's time and see if we can't get the odd word. I know you've had your eye on a particular Audi R8 model down there at the back of the paddock area.
There is
too,
one of my favourite colour, yeah.
We'll
join us on
Facebook
to see what colour that is.
I'm not sure how many people will be surprised, but anyway, we will look into that as we get there. Throwing you back under that big moving bus again.
Well, Angelo Negro, a solid weekend from him. Very, very close to 2nd in qualifying this morning, making improvements all the way throughout the weekend. But Alex Au was able to hold him off for 2nd. And this is how they started. 1, 2 and 3 on the grid is how they finished today. But Anthony Liu, another fantastic drive, finished just shy of 25 seconds ahead of Alex Au in this 15-lap race. It was another dominant performance, and it's been a very, very impressive weekend from the Chinese driver.
Well, this championship this year has really been a surprise. You know, we tried predicting Alex Au after his dominant performance in qualifying at Shanghai. That didn't end so well. I mean, we did predict perhaps that Anthony Liu would achieve what he has done. I have seen him for years here. 5 years ago, I think it is, or maybe even 6, he stood on the top of the podium on his debut in a GT3 car after really setting some stunning times. He and his teammate Davide Rizzo both set pole position against some of the best competition in the world, as it turns out, for GT3 competition. And of course, this is a full-spec GT3 car, the Audi R8 LMS GT3, the Evo or Evolution version of the Series 2 R8. So he has driven these cars before. He's driven with a number of the top young Audi drivers, and certainly has been impressive. Takes home another of the Audi fastest lap prizes. That'll go on the mantelpiece alongside the winner's trophy.
I think Angelo was ready to pop the champagne there. Anthony said, no, hold on. I've got another prize.
He might be thirsty. It was a hot day. I mean, again, we need to just touch on that too, as Martin Kuhl comes into the picture and stands back on the podium where it all began all those years ago with the Cup, Shanghai International Circuit. But weather conditions, it's the first time it's been like this in 3 days. So for the teams, the engineers, it changed so quickly. The sun came out, the track started to heat up. It was very hot down there on the grid. That will too have had a bit of an impact, and you heard a couple of the drivers talking about the track being a little bit more slippery. And that was probably the way they'd set the cars up yesterday. Remember, down there on the grid, we make fun of poor old Wayron, but the fact is it was very difficult to predict what the weather conditions are.
trying to get Anthony over the back. He's gone already. Alex not having any of that. That was a good spray.
It's not Children's Day today. We saw a number of the families on the podium. We've still got a couple more podiums to go, but the family nature of this championship, you saw Anthony Liu giving Angelo a hug on the grid, saying, "You still got it, old man." This is very much a family atmosphere. It's one of the great joys of the Audi Sport R8 LMS Cup, that it is more than just a race event.
2019 Audi Sport R8 LMS Cup Round 6 Award for the Challenger Trophy. 女士们、先生们，现在颁发2019年奥迪运动R8 LMS 杯第6回合挑战杯奖项。The third prize goes to Vincent Floriano from TG and Sport by F2 Racing.
Vincent Florendo, who finished 7th overall, will have a podium position in the Challenger Trophy. This is Markichan, who finished 1 place ahead of him in 6th. And he is the younger of the two Zun Motorsport crew drivers.
He looked like a young Sean Thong standing there at that stage, didn't he?
And Angelo Negro, look at that, back on the podium, but the top step this time. Finished 3rd overall and top spot in the Challenger Trophy. Drivers at, well, different ends of the scale, with Markichan just 20 years old. And
Angelo, we know, is beyond 48.
Let's
just leave it at that. And he's doing a very good job for an old man. I can say that as an old man, but he has really done a great job this weekend, and he has made a nice addition to the field. So given that this is his first time in an Audi, tipping with the silverware he's taking home this weekend, he may well decide to make a few more appearances.
Yeah, let's see if Vincent just gets his boy to pop the cork.
He needs the number 1. There's a little bit of work to do. We'll see Dad on the podium a little bit more. Of course, that's 4 podiums from 4 starts so far back in the Cup for Vincent Florendo, so he's doing a very nice job.
So there'll be the GT4 podium after this, and Xiongyan Wen has had a fantastic weekend, Sean, in GT4, and he has leapt to the top of the championship standings. He came in, well, he was technically in 5th position coming into today's race, but just 4 points off the top. And with another 26 from pole position for GT4 and 25 for the race win, he will be way out in front of Li Lin, Mark Williamson, Tommy Chan and Anderson Tenoto, none of whom were able to make this weekend.
We will see them a little bit further into the championship. We talk about that Suzuka International Circuit. It's an international racing course, as it turns out, in Japan, one of the most iconic circuits in the region, very much like Shanghai International Circuit. A former F1 host. Round 7 and 8 of the championship, August 23 to 24. Rounds 9 and 10 to round out the season, November 23 to 24 at Sepang International Circuit, Malaysia. And what a hot weekend that was last year. We look forward to that one. But of course, mixed or interspersed with this, we have the Blancpain GT World Challenge Asia. Next up for those drivers like Wayron Tam and Martin Rump, we go to Suzuka International Circuit on the 22nd and 23rd of June. There's a happy man.
Zhang Dongqi, who is second in GT4 today, and it was a pretty solid drive by Zhang. And that is Sheng Yanwen.
Zhang, I don't think has stopped smiling since he first got in the car for the weekend. He didn't race yesterday, he was sharing the car, and that's one of the beauties of what you can do to work yourself into this championship. He was a little off the pace, but he's not accustomed to the car. He's pretty much a rookie for competition. Yes, he's done a little bit of GT racing in China, but he's very new to the sport. He did everything right, but he has been all smiles. It's exactly what you want to see. There you go. He wants a hug.
Bring it in, boss.
Again, the family nature of this sport is just too good.
So, Zhang Dongqi and Sheng Yanwen, the new points leader in GT4 on the right of the top step there, completes the podium. And that about wraps it up, doesn't it, Sean? But as you said, we will be back online.
Inside Zone Red very, very soon, about 25 minutes' time. You better go and get pretty, get your makeup on.
Yeah.
And we will keep you up to date. I need to go down and run down to the garage and see if I can find out what happened.
All right, good stuff. Well, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on Facebook in a few minutes.